Would like to introduce to you today our Mayor Corey A. Booker. We're going to be holding a press conference concerning the current conditions for the Hurricane Sandy, as well as some new updates for the Newark Public School System. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our elected officials. To my right, Council President Donald Payne. Also in attendance, North Council Councilman Aníbal Ramos. Councilman at Large for the City of Newark, Carlos Gonzalez. State Assembly, Mr. Albert Coutinho. Essex County Sheriff and also serving as OEM Coordinator for the county, Armando Fontoura. Essex County Clerk, Chris Durkin. Newark Police Director, Sammy DeMayo. Fire Department Chief, John Santani. Newark Police Chief, Sheila Coley. We also have in attendance, I don't know if I failed to mention her, Cleopatra Tucker. School Advisory Board Chair, Tony Basketball Richards. Without further ado, our Mayor Corey A. Booker.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to be clear, the purpose of this press conference now is really threefold. Principally, we're here to give an update on what's happening with our Newark Public Schools from our Superintendent, Cammie Anderson, who I'll introduce in a moment. We're also fortunate to have some significant updates on voting on Tuesday. And I'm very happy right now to have Chris Durkin in attendance, who will speak after the superintendent. And then finally, when we open up for questions, we're principally looking for questions focused on schools first, then voting, and then any questions about what's going on with emergency response as it is now. We're still asking the press and the media, who have frankly been phenomenal first responders themselves, which we're really grateful in this crisis that you all have been getting critical information to the people that need it in Newark and around New Jersey and the region. And so there's still some messages we would like to put out there that will ensure the safety of our community going forward. We can discuss them at the tail end. So one more time, run a show. We're going to have our Superintendent, Cammie Anderson, right now fill us in on very important information about the Newark Public Schools. Following her will be Chris Durkin, who is going to be talking about voting on Tuesday and some very good news, in my opinion, that he has to share. After that, we'll open it up for questions first and foremost about public schools in Newark. Then we will take any questions about voting. Then I'd like the opportunity to take any questions about the cleanup, but more importantly, the state of emergency that we're still in and some of the important things we want to put out. I'm now very pleased to introduce you to one of our incredibly hardworking public servants, our Superintendent of Schools, Cammie Anderson.
Good morning. Thank everyone for coming. First of all, we would like to express our well wishes to all the residents of Newark. We know this has been a really hard time for our families based on the power situation, the down power lines, and other things. We're grateful as a resident. We're grateful to our mayor and his team, everyone behind us, for all of the wonderful things they've done to try to get things back to normal. But just want to acknowledge that schools are obviously important, but safety and humanity and kind of what's happened to the state and to our city is something that's in our hearts and minds as well today. So I just wanted to start with a warm welcome and hopes that people are doing well personally. NPS is, as always, a community-based organization. We have really strong ties to our families. So I just wanted to also let our families know that we're here for you. We have Tia Morris, our Chief Family and Community Engagement Officer, who works closely with our family liaisons, our family coordinators. So if there are any needs that you have, our hotline is open. It's the 973-733-7333 number. And to the extent you have needs outside of school, we are happy to take your calls, and we're coordinating closely with all the city agencies. Again, we're a community-based organization first, and we really are here for you. Sometimes families are able and willing to connect with schools in ways that they may not be able to with other services, so we're here for you. We also know it's critical to get back to normalcy, back to routines, both because it's very important in these times of crisis, but also because I think we all recognize the critically important nature of instructional minutes and how that impacts our kids' ability to learn and to excel in life. So we have been busy trying to figure out what is the state of affairs with our school buildings and how to ensure they're safe for our faculty and for our students. I want to thank our school business administrator, Val Wilson, and Steve Merlino, who is the director of facilities, for their incredible work. They both have been in tough personal circumstances and nonetheless have been on the ground from day one, checking out our buildings with a very dedicated team of professionals at Newark Public Schools. Pleased to report that because the city was spared a fair amount of rainfall, we got some relief there. We got less than we were all expecting. That the actual long-term damage to our buildings is quite minimal. We did have about 30 schools that had some sort of structural pieces, downed lines, poles, trees, this sort of thing. The majority of those things have already been addressed, and some will require some long-term repair, but we anticipate by the end of today that all of those things would be cleaned up and would not prevent us from opening, and that's due to just incredibly fast and great work by our team, and also, a teeny bit of luck from Mother Nature. And to the extent that we have longer-term things to address, we'll take care of those while schools are back in session, and we believe that everyone will be safe as a result of that hard work. So the main issue, just like many Newarkers for us, is power. We have, of the 75 schools, we had 33 as of the end of the day yesterday that had power. We were excited that we're up to a whopping 38 this morning, only to be crushed an hour ago to be back down to 35, although one came back online, so we're up to 36. But clearly that's just not enough to be able to open schools. We need power to be safe, and while we do have generators, those are limited, and just like everyone, we are struggling with things like fuel and whatnot to keep those generators opening. So I'm here to announce our plan for next week, and just to get the word out to all of our families. In addition to the humanitarian support, by the way, we've also provided over 6,000 meals to our residents and our seniors through some of our kitchens and our food services because we have residents in need. So in addition to the humanitarian support, we will continue to coordinate with the city on that. I'm here to talk about our plan for helping our young people and our families get back to school. So on Monday, all school-based staff will return. So that's faculty, administration, principals, vice principals, department chairs, anyone who works in a school, in addition to our teachers, teacher aides, social workers, guidance counselors. All school-based personnel will return on Monday. We urge schools to work together to use that as planning and regrouping time, and an opportunity to ensure safe passageway around all the perimeter of the school, which we will already do to make sure faculty is there, but obviously more people helping with that is great. And some rare professional development and planning time that we know is difficult to come by. Tuesdays, schools will be closed due to voting. That's always been the case, and we're working closely with the county's office to ensure that the polling sites are open. We only need about 30 polling sites, so we'll either use the schools that are already online, or we'll keep with the previous plan if the schools come back online this weekend, which we are all hopeful they will. Thursday and Friday, which were initially scheduled to be days off as a result of the NJEA conference, and the Friday, the Puerto Rico Recognition Day holiday, we will be back in session. Let's say that again, Thursday and Friday, so full day for faculty, students, and staff, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That is a change from our regular schedule. We want to really thank our union partners, the NTU, the Council of CASA, the School Administrators Union, our other Local 617 and others who have been very supportive of that decision. We thank them for that. We know that this week sometimes is a time where teachers and others make plans, and we will work with them on that, but we do appreciate their flexibility in changing the schedule. The goal here was to get those 3 contiguous days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, as opposed to stopping and starting. This will help us to help our young people get back to a semblance of normalcy and also recoup some really critical instructional time. Finally, just a couple of special notes. For those families with students who are receiving special education services, Our Office of Special Ed is reaching out in particular to families with medically fragile, those who are deaf, and those with autism to ensure those families are supported. Those are students, obviously, who need very specific support. Our Office of Special Education is reaching out to those families personally, and we will make sure that they get the support that they need during this time. In the meantime, families, there are lots of things families can do to support learning at home. We have posted a set of tips on our website that range from reading activities, writing activities, practicing math. Achieve 3000, which is an online, self-paced, really high-quality tool, has given us free access for the next 10 days so that kids can get on there and actually do some work. All of this is posted on our website, and of course, if you can't access the website, then you can call our hotline and someone can make sure and reach back out to you. The SAT had been scheduled to be given at Behringer High School this Saturday. That is canceled. We will work with the individuals who own that test to ensure we have a date soon rescheduled. We know it's a very important test for students. We didn't want to proceed, in the event that those kids can't get there. So we will work hard and get more information about that out. And if there are any school-based issues that families have specific to their actual school building, they can contact the school principal, and in the event they aren't able to reach the school principal, again, our line that I gave earlier, and or the assistant superintendent who's responsible for those schools. Finally, I would just, once again, extend a huge thank you. It's really been incredible to see people who are dealing with their own personal challenges apply such dedication. I talked to our school advisory board chair, for example, who was in her car charging her phone, and yet she is here standing with us, and she's been an incredible champion for kids, not to mention all the officials you see back here, and of course our awesome team who has left, often dark homes, et cetera, to help us support our families and get our schools back online. So thank you very much for allowing me this time.
All right, so we're going to take some questions for the superintendent after we allow our county clerk, Christopher Durkin, to make what I believe are some very good announcements. Again, a lot of concerns have been expressed in the past during this crisis about voting. We've been saying over and over again that the critical need is to focus on the urgencies within our community. However, we also know that we have an incredible team at our county that has been preparing and working and doing a lot of very diligent things to ensure that voting continues for this very critical election, not just for the presidential election, but frankly, all the way up and down our ballot. There are very critical issues to be decided, including a ballot initiative for infrastructure resources for our higher education institutions here in New Jersey. So I'm very pleased to bring forward right now Essex County Clerk Christopher Durkin.
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor for all that he's doing, along with the first responders and the power companies and public works personnel to put us on a path to normalcy. I know at this time voting is an afterthought for many New Jerseyans in this time of distress and disaster that has been inflicted upon them. I want you also to know that Election Day is happening. We are moving forward with Election Day. Each county has its unique obstacles to overcome. In Essex County, our obstacles are mainly power outages. In a lot of the polling places, we've been working with the power companies along with each mayor's office, each town clerk, to find out when these polling locations are coming back online for power. We have 306 polling locations in Essex County. The majority do have power, and every hour more and more locations are coming online. So we're going to be working around the clock, through the weekend, to make sure everyone has the ability to vote if they'd like to cast their vote. What we're doing with locations that are unsafe or do not have power, we are making a plan currently to move those polling locations into existing polling locations. We don't want to displace any voters, but we need to be concerned with the safety and the power of these polling locations. We will not have any voters leave their municipality, and in a city like Newark, no voter will have to leave their ward to cast a vote. Hopefully, it'll just be a few blocks to cast their vote. Also, if anyone would like to vote early and vote on a vote-by-mail ballot, they can do so at the Essex County Clerk's office, along with every county clerk's office throughout the state. We are in our office till 5:30 today. Tomorrow and Sunday, so Saturday and Sunday from 8:30 to 4:30. So that's a full work day. We'll be in our office accepting vote-by-mail ballots, and also Monday from 8:30 to 4:30. As the school superintendent said, it is so important to understand what people are doing to make the lives of others just a little easier, just a little better. I just had a Superior Court judge walk in my office and ask if he could answer phone calls to help the public in their need to vote. We also just had Derek Jeter's parents in my office voting by mail, putting their votes in early. They're residents of West Orange, so they were able to come down to the Hall of Records and cast their vote before Election Day. But just understand that we are working tirelessly to allow the voting, one of your greatest rights as American citizens, to happen. I want to thank you for your time and consideration.
All right, so Derek Jeter's parents are batting 1,000 on their voting. Enough said. So we're going to do this very orderly. I'm going to ask specifically for questions for the superintendent now. Then I'm going to ask for Christopher Durkin to come back up. I want him first to say everything he just said in Spanish, and then I would like uno broma, lo siento. But then I'd like for questions about voting, and then we're going to open it up to questions about any subject matter whatsoever. And I may make a few announcements I think are very important for the public at large. So I'll bring back our superintendent to answer questions.
Hi.
Why did you want to have the professional development day on Monday rather than just put kids right back in school? And will there be any after-school activities or any provisions, anything that parents can do through the public schools to get further kids on Monday?
Sure. So at this particular time, we have less than 50% of our schools with power. And, we're hopeful, and there's some information, but that's simply not enough schools to house all of our children safely. But it is enough schools to house all of our faculty and staff safely. So in the event we have to pair schools up, you can envision pairing up 50 faculty members with 50 faculty members in a school across the city, even if we got no more power. But it's pretty difficult to figure out how we would do that safely, given where we are with our power situation. So we do want to maximize the time, and we're hopeful, but we needed to be at least 75% in order for students to be able to be physically in buildings safely. If we get great news over the weekend, wonderful, miraculous news, then we would consider doing some sort of after-school programming, et cetera. And we will make that decision early Sunday morning. But again, this decision was based on the power situation and the ability to move people across the city safely.
And what if power does not come on?
Well, we'll also have more to say about that on Sunday. So again, even with 50% of the schools, we would be able to team up schools so that faculty could do work and planning, et cetera, safely. So that should be able to proceed no matter what. The situation around students we'll have to monitor closely, and for that we need larger numbers to come back online.
Got it. So if on Tuesday a school is out, you may pair it up with another school?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So for example, each school will bring 2 faculty together if they need to. That's something we could do Monday safely if 50% are online. Students, that's a different story. Hi.
Hi. So I just wanted a clarification
Sure.
on that point. So if schools are 50% of schools are electrified, have electricity, you'll be able to open the entire district?
No, so the original, what's in your press release and what I started with is still what I'm saying. Monday, faculty and school-based staff will return. Wednesday, everyone returns, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. What I was saying in response to the question is that on Monday, even if we are still at 50% capacity, we can still accommodate faculty and staff. So we will update just look out Sunday for an update, but I just want to make sure we keep the same message. Monday is faculty and staff, school-based staff, and Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are students.
In the event that individual schools don't have electricity by the projected day, what happens?
So we will notify the principal, and we have an ability through NPS to do school-based calling, what their sister school would be, if you will, so that they can report there. And that will happen on a individual school-by-school basis. It would also be updated on our website, as well as through press advisories. So we will do that, every day like we've been doing, but we just wanted everyone to have the plan for next week so that that's basically where we are. If there are changes to that, which we don't anticipate, that's why we created a sort of phased plan, then we will notify you through the normal channels.
Okay, so if my school's closed, I might be sent to another school.
That's possible.
Okay.
Other questions for the superintendent?
One last thing I neglected to mention, just quickly, for the Puerto Rico Heritage event, we will work with the city to form a committee of elected officials and advocates to plan a celebration. Once our city is kind of up and running, and we're grateful for the support we've gotten on that, we look forward to rescheduling something along those lines, because that's very important for our city as well.
Just really quick, rápidamente para las personas que hablan español, tenemos noticias buenas para las escuelas públicas en nuestra ciudad. En Newark vamos a abrir las escuelas no lunes, no martes, pero miércoles vamos a tener clases para los niños en escuelas público en Newark. Gracias. Y now questions for the county clerk about election day.
I'm Anna Sale from WNYC. This is actually for you, Mayor Booker, about voting. I talked to some early voters at the courthouse today who'd been alerted by their towns through text message calls. What's the plan for alerting Newark residents about how they can vote early and if their polling place has been relocated?
So I really appreciate the question. Actually, we're going to be retreating after this. Probably that's not the right word. We're going to be meeting after this to really discuss a public relations plan. We're going to use all the same measures that we've been using for all information. So that's why, thankfully, we have the press here assembled for this announcement. We're going to start doing it through our churches and church leaders who are coming. We're going to be doing it through our city website, through social media. We're going to do it in every way possible. And it's very important that we get that word out because there are some very important issues on this election that are critical for Newarkers to speak up to. And so we're going to start the effort. And I have a feeling when we do our roundtable on election alertness, there's going to become a lot of means to do it. We talked to the Red Cross already right before this meeting. They said even at the shelters, we can be getting that word out. So we're going to put a full court press in ways that will not take away from our emergency response. My first priority as a mayor still continues to be the safety and security of our residents, many of whom are critical and vulnerable positions without this power. But we do take the election seriously. This is a democracy, and that's what makes our governments go. And we're going to lend whatever resources we have through the proper communications channels as we push other things out to make people aware. Any other questions for Mr. Durkin?
Hi, Chris.
How are you?
So over the weekend, people can actually walk in and drop off their ballots physically to your office.
They can do it two ways. They can come into my office, fill out an application, vote by mail application. We will prepare the ballot, give them the ballot. They vote on the ballot and drop it off into the Board of Elections, which is in the same building, the Hall of Records. So we will prepare the ballot, give the ballot to the voter then votes on the ballot and goes upstairs to the Board of Elections and hands their vote in.
You want to put the address out for where people...
465 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Newark is the Hall of Records, the address for the Hall of Records. Please.
Do you want to do it? I'm one step above Bloomberg. We have actually a native Spanish speaker.
Si la dirección para votar es el 465 de la avenida Martin Luther King en Newark. Es el Hall of Records donde se registran las hipotecas en la ciudad de Newark.
Repita la información de las clases de public schools.
Las escuelas en la ciudad de Newark van a estar cerradas el lunes y martes. Sin embargo, van a estar abiertas para los estudiantes miércoles, jueves y viernes.
And if I could, we are going to be working right up to Election Day, figuring out which places where power comes on, utilizing those polling locations, like I said, to displace the least amount of voters possible. I want to commend all of the election officials throughout New Jersey who are working 24 hours a day to make sure everyone is able to exercise their right to vote.
You said there are 306 in Essex County and the majority have power. Do any have structural damage or will just be unable to be used?
Yeah, it's none as far as I know, none have structural damage. The polling locations, but you can understand without power, there's a safety issue there because we know with fallback early Sunday morning, it's going to be dark earlier, maybe about 4:30. So I think it'd be difficult for people to vote in the dark, to work in the dark as the poll workers on election day are there. So we're going to make every accommodation we can for the poll workers and the voters.
Again, I really appreciate Chris Durkin. His leadership has been extraordinary. We know there's a lot of challenges in other counties, and they're going to have to use other means and measures to ensure that everyone can vote. We will have as normal of a voting process as we possibly can in the city of Newark. But I actually, for one, I'm going to encourage people who are able to vote early, and I think that's a wonderful service that's being offered. And I know when Chris Durkin says come to my office, he's very sincere. Go to his office. I know at least the rumors are that he's letting people sit in his actual chair at his desk and vote as well. But that brings me to the point, a couple points that I want to make. And the first is what we're seeing the most dangerous circumstances in Newark. They're falling into a number of categories, and people really need to understand these are life-threatening things that are going on in our city right now. So I just encourage people to vote early, correct? To go to 465 Martin Luther King Boulevard. We have seen about 100% increase right now in motor vehicle accidents in our city related to power outages along major corridors and many streets. It seems that folks who took their driver's test 5-10 years ago, or in the case of Sammy DeMeo 30-40 years ago, have forgotten that when you come to a traffic light that is out, the law says stop. I repeat, when you come to a traffic light that is out, the law says stop. I have been astonished driving around at the city of Newark that when emergency vehicles are moving along streets with traffic lights that are out, I hear screeching of brakes as people who, number one, are not understanding that we're still in a state of emergency and they should be driving with extreme caution no matter what, but who are not obeying the law of our city. We are putting individuals in danger. We have had a 100% increase in motor vehicle accidents related to this problem. And I do not want to lose another one of my citizens in this aftermath of this storm. And what I'm seeing right now is a trend that is disturbing. So in any way possible, please understand that if you come to a traffic signal out, you must stop, and you should be driving with a heightened awareness because we have emergency vehicles that are rushing to important rescues. That's number one. Number two is there's a disturbing increase as well in carbon monoxide problems all over our city. We have had two fatalities in our city already by two young women in their prime, 18 and 19 years old. These are preventable deaths. I've had this conversation. If I've had it once, I've had it 100 times. And I know this is difficult, but please, if you're using a generator, use extreme caution. While it could heat your home, it also can kill people if it is not placed properly away from the home. Properly is not just outside your door. What happens is you create a vacuum. The warmer climate inside your home is going to suck in those fumes. They're going to suck in those fumes and poison your environment at home. You need to place your generator far away from your residence. But the more common problem we're having right now, and I talked to a woman by Nye Avenue this morning about it, who had a very young infant. If you are running your stove to heat your home, this is extraordinarily dangerous. Do not use your stove to heat your home. This is a high risk for fires. In addition to that, you're going to raise the carbon monoxide levels in your house. And when you run that 24 hours, or in this case, we've been 4 days without power, they get to be dangerous levels. We're having carbon monoxide alarms go off, and I encourage everyone to get a carbon monoxide detector. If you have a problem with a carbon monoxide detector, call the City of Newark's non-emergency hotline number. But understand, when you have a child and an infant with developing lungs, and they're breathing in for 1, 2, 3 days, an environment that may not be a level of poison for an adult, with those developing lungs, you are putting your child's long-term respiratory health at risk. So this is very, very serious. And I know it's cold. I know it's cold. And so if you have need for more blankets, I will deliver them to your home myself if I have to. Do not turn your ovens on to heat your homes. Call 973-733-4311. We will deliver blankets to you. We encourage you to leave your home and stay with family or friends, or come to our shelters. Come to our shelters. The Red Cross and others are making them very warm, very hospitable environments. And I'll tell you this, thanks to some of the council people and others behind me, the food is getting a lot better. In fact, they're having meals that are much better than I have at my own home, and that's not saying much as a bachelor. So please, do not use your oven to heat. And also, my fire officials are asking me to make this statement. Even candles put your house at risk. Not only do they themselves lessen the air quality of your home without proper ventilation, but they also become, open flames become heightened fire risks. I don't have the exact percentage, but our calls for service to our fire department have gone up. We've been having an increase in fires around the city, increase for calls of service. This is where I'm worried right now that we're going to lose lives in traffic accidents and in home carbon monoxide poisoning or fire as a result of people using makeshift means for heating. And the final public safety issue I want to make clear to my residents involves people that are shut in their homes, who have lack of access to food and medical care. And so this is the call to the city. We are going to be so strong if we stand together. I was on Walcott in the South Ward as well this morning and was so inspired because folks on that street knew who their elderly were and their sick were. And so we're all each other's eyes and ears here. If there is somebody now that is home-ridden and their food now is depleted for days and days without being able to get food, and they have medicine that's not been able to be refrigerated, and they have asthma or diabetes, we're asking everybody to call us. If it's a medical condition, call 911. EMT, our local hospitals have assured us they have the capacity. I do not want someone, and I've seen this in past weather events, I see this in heat waves, that folks are starting to feel symptoms and they don't call. Now again, some people don't have phones, and this is why we have to be looking out for each other. If you know somebody in your community that's elderly, shut in, disabled, call our non-emergency hotline. Let us and our volunteers check in on those people. And if you are feeling symptoms, please call 911 or ask someone to do so for you. And so that last point is very important. I am inspired by the fact that now we have great volunteers, from those donating food, restaurants literally giving us hot meals, to FEMA and others who are delivering blankets. We are setting up a logistics system to get resources out into the community for people that need it. And so if you know of anybody has any need, my car right now is filled up with baby supplies for young mothers with newborns. We have systems to get that help out to people. I do not want any of our residents, it is unacceptable in a city with this much love and compassion for somebody to suffer at home without the basic needs and be unable to get them. We need to rely on each other and get those people the resources they need. And then final update I'd like to give is on the power situation, because I know folks are looking for hope that the power will be turned on. So in Newark right now, we're about, rough estimate, about 50% of power restoration. Today actually could be a good day for thousands of our residents. one of the main switching stations that has been out in the East Ward. I've talked about this one a lot because it's where we had to do an aquatic rescue and actually get PSE&G staff out to safety. It was a really a heroic efforts by some of our emergency teams. That switching station, which had sustained so much damage and feeds large portions of the East Ward, the North Ward, and some of the Central Ward, that switching station, I'm told, should come back online today. Now, sometimes when you power things up, you might have some problems, but if all goes smoothly with that, that will return power to those large swaths of our city that are without power. So today could be a good day for many of our Newark residents. Now, I know there are people in the West Ward, in the South Ward, and the Central Ward are saying, what about us? Well, then everybody in Newark is going to be in the same boat, and this is the boat we're in. As those substations and switching stations come back online and feed power into our city, the problem then becomes pole damage and wire damage. And I've heard this a lot. People almost feel like somehow they've been forgotten. Hey, my neighbor has power on one side of the street, but I don't have power on this. It's happening for me. I on Hawthorne Avenue in my section have power right behind me in my backyard on my neighbor's street. On Homestead, they don't have power. And what this means is we got isolated pole damage and wire damage in those areas. And so we have a fleet of people now working to remove trees and to give PSE&G access to those poles. So PSE&G has their tree teams and their wire teams working on these issues, and we're backing them up with a fleet of folks from our fire, from our police, from our neighborhood services, private contractors. We're sparing no dollars in getting folks out there. And I'm very grateful for the state that now has brought in the State Forestry Service. This might be one of the first times the Forestry Service has been called into an urban area, at least in recent years. But we've got that additional asset now in our city. So that is what we're doing every way possible so PSE&G and their workers from around the region, because they're bringing people into the state of New Jersey, can get those power lines up. So today could be a very good day in power restoration, but I do not anticipate all of our customers of PSE&G, all of our residents being restored. For many people, it still could be days until they get power. It could be days. And that gets me back to the points I was making earlier. We are still in a state of emergency. And when the crisis comes, we depend upon each other. First, to use prudence, caution, and common sense for yourself, your family, and your neighbors, to show compassion and reaching out to folks, and don't let just your mind know that somebody's in trouble, calling our non-emergency hotline so we can get them services. And we can get through this if we do that and do this together. So I want to thank the press for helping me get out those very important points, and now I'll answer any questions that you might have about what's going on in our response. Get the gentleman a microphone, please.
Yeah, just getting back to the East Ward for a second. When the flooding hit, a lot of that water had apparent chemicals in it. It smelled like oil. Has there been any discussion or any issues with contamination of any kind?
More than you know. And so please understand, I know most of our city people are focused on the power, but I still have thousands of residents that were affected by flooding like our city's never seen. I was down on Waydell Street yesterday, and they literally talked about a wave coming down their street. We've had to condemn housing and declare them inhabitable. Foundations, I've never seen anything like that before in our city. Foundations completely eroded. We can look at the underneath of houses there. Those areas now also are talking about chemicals and smells. And so we've been bringing our hazmat teams down into those areas, doing air quality tests to ensure the safety of our residents. So we are doing rapid response through the fire department with our hazmat teams to make sure that no residents with all the chemicals, and we know we have a lot of chemical plants down and around our East Ward, to make sure that the areas that people are in are still habitable. But that doesn't mean that a lot of oil and other substances hasn't saturated the soil. So we've been working with the state DEP, and now the federal EPA are working in our city to make sure that not only people are safe in the immediate, but the long-term safety of our residents with soil damage and other chemicals that may have gotten into the areas. But this goes back to, again, an overarching point. If you see something suspect something, say something. If you see something or suspect something, say something. And we cannot react to it if we're being proactive, but we can't react to something unless we know about it. And it's a point that I miss, and I know my fire officials are probably looking at me saying, you missed an important point, Mayor, and this is the important point. You may have a power line that's down in your neighborhood, and now you all have been seeing people walking over it, and now you don't suspect it for causing any trouble. You think it's just a wire down. When we push back, when PSE&G pushes back that power and it surges back into neighborhoods, those lines that are down can become live. And so this is what I mean. If you are in a neighborhood and you see any condition, even a stop sign down, as I'm seeing right now with motor vehicle accidents, even a stop sign down, we have our engineering team, we've pumped up the resources in our engineering team to sweep this city and try to get signage restored. But that could be the difference between injury and safety. It could be the difference between life and death. So whether it's a power line down, whether it's smelling something in an area, whether it's a stop sign down, I'm relying on our residents right now to get us that information at our non-emergency hotline number so that we can get the proper agencies to respond to that. And the agencies cooperating in Newark now go from the federal level, state level, county level, local level, and even our partnering agencies like the Port Authority, New Jersey Transit, and colleges and the like. All right, other questions?
How many shelters do you have right now, and are you satisfied that people are utilizing them or not?
The question was, how many shelters do we have in the city of Newark, and am I satisfied that people are using them? So we have a number of homeless shelters that are still operating, from the Goodwill shelter on University to our homeless shelter on Sussex. So those are available, but for the general population, we have one main shelter that is animal friendly still at JFK, and it has not reached capacity. It has not reached capacity. So we have secondary staging areas ready should there be more people that say, you know what, this is the fourth day, I have no more endurance, I can't keep my children in this environment, the mayor told me to turn off my stove. For those people, we're ready to take them in. But again, this calls for neighborliness. If your neighbor's got power across the street from you, folks should be taking other folks in. You don't have to go to a shelter. I've seen this in Newark. I opened up my home yesterday to my neighbors. So my point is, we're going to get through this if we all pull together. But or for a fallback position, we have shelter space and capacity available for anyone. And hey, what if you don't want to stay overnight, but you just want a hot meal? Come to our shelters. We've got hot meals. Hey, we have showers at work too at our shelters. If you haven't had a hot shower, some people on my command staff, I might order them to take a shower later because they've been running around the clock. But you can utilize the services at the shelter without having to stay there overnight. But I'm asking Newark. This is, first of all, I'm seeing this. I'm seeing it all over our city. Acts of kindness that I got to stop and wipe the tears from my eyes, and I'm very serious about it, that are pretty incredible. But I want more of that. I want more of that. And so we've got to be watching out for each other. If you got something, share it. If you have even a power outlet right now, could be the difference. Letting somebody charge up at your home could be the difference between them being able to call for help and them not. In the back?
Yeah, I just have a follow-up question about carbon monoxide poisoning. There's two young women who died in housing authority complexes. Has there been any kind of review about carbon monoxide detectors in city apartments?
Yeah, so the Housing Authority, first of all, and I'm sorry they're not represented here today, they're doing an extraordinary job in number one, getting generators. There's a partnership going on in the whole region for prioritizing high-need areas so that we can get generators so that people don't have to go to these extraordinary means to heat themselves. So we've been able to get slowly many of our senior complexes up on generators. Public Housing Authority, frankly, and even we have a West Ward on right off of South Orange Avenue, St. Mary's. You know, we were able to get them a generator to get their services back up. The Housing Authority is being very proactive, going in, knocking on doors. They have very good lists of who's disabled, who might have a certain medical condition, and they have teams, and I think even volunteers, going and doing that. So, and if we see conditions that where somebody is doing something that's irresponsible, we're obviously intervening to ensure that they don't. Again, I can't confirm for you. I cannot confirm for you whether the detectors are there, but one thing I can confirm for you on personal experience, that people are disengaging their detectors. They're disengaging their detectors. And so, again, this is where common sense and prudence. And if you do not have a detector, remember this, if you do not have something you need, like a detector, you call for it. And we'll be happy to get those resources out to you or move you to some place where you won't have that concern. Okay?
I have a voting question. You've been an outspoken supporter of President Obama. Do you worry that it sounds like Essex, you have things going well, but in other places that supporters won't be able to get out and vote?
Well, number one, I don't worry because in Essex County, as you said, because I got Chris Durkin.
It's just in the state in
He's an
general.
extraordinary leader. Am I concerned about that? Yes. But frankly, I've got a lot of greater concerns than that right now than that. But I'm confident as a supporter of our president. I'm pretty confident in the outcome here in Newark, in New Jersey, rather, if people who can come out. But understand, as the problems that we see and my partners here see in Newark and across our state, this election is not high on our priority list. When I look at what's happening to my brothers and sisters in Hoboken, when I look at what's happening to some of my friends in lower counties and what they're dealing with, dear God, let's put the focus on where it should be right now, which is the sanctity of human life and the urgencies that many of our communities are facing to that preservation. Look, there'll be time to comment on this more, but as a Friday after a Monday disaster, I think all of us are really focused on getting the job done. There are people in our state, and I say this jokingly, but the truth of the matter is, as much as Essex County's got the best, Chris Durkin's amazing. They're amazing people. His peers in the other 21 counties are pretty extraordinary people, and then other officials that they're working with. So I'm confident voting will go on in the state of New Jersey one way or the other, and I'm confident that the outcomes will be as they would have been perhaps if we didn't have the voting, the disaster that we just experienced. One last question at all out here? All right, let's get back to work, ladies and gentlemen.
Actually, ¿nos podrías hablar en español de las preocupaciones que tienes con los residentes de Newark?
Exactamente. Voy a tratar, pero yo prefiero un hombre, el mismo de yo, porque tiene una cabeza bonita, sin pelo también, pero tenemos un concejal, person, Carlos González. Venga aquí, por favor, amigo. And then after Carlos, the entire press conference will be reiterated in Italian by Sammy DeMeo. Please, why don't you just go on the points of emphasis I just made about carbon monoxide?
Sí, los puntos que nos interesan y que queremos que la gente esté bien relacionado con ellos es que no usen las estufas para calentarse, no usen los hornos de las estufas para calentarse, que no usen velas para alumbrarse, porque las velas son una fuente de incendios en los hogares y además de eso producen monóxido de carbono que puede envenenar a las personas. Es muy importante también que las personas, si tienen un generador de energía eléctrica que esté operado por gasolina o por gasoil, que lo mantengan a una distancia considerable del hogar, cosa de que los gases que produce el generador no entren en la casa, porque desgraciadamente pudiesen morir a causa de los gases. Hemos tenido en el estado de New Jersey, creo que 5 personas han muerto, y en Newark 2 personas resultaron muertas como resultado de los gases emitidos por generadores.
Un otro punto, Councilman Ramos, could you venga aquí por favor, porque es tan importante los semáforos, ¿cómo se dice? Traffic light.
Sí, para las personas que están manejando, ustedes saben que la ciudad de Newark tiene ciertas áreas que no tienen luz y muchos de los semáforos o los traffic signals no están funcionando. Y cuando ustedes van manejando por una área donde no existe el semáforo, tienen que parar el carro, usar precaución. Tenemos muchos accidentes que están ocurriendo y el alcalde, como él mencionó anteriormente, si las personas no es necesario que manejen, es importante que si están manejando que usen precaución.
Es ley. It is the law. Necesita parar en una intersección. Es una ley. And es muy, muy peligroso no para, tenemos un problema grande. Y el nivel de accidentes en nuestra ciudad es más alto ahora, es más alto ahora. No quiero más personas que morir en nuestra ciudad. So, por favor, ¿cómo se dice obey the law? What he said.